Hey there, and welcome to the Growth Whisperers, where everything that we talk about is building enduring great companies. Not companies that are here for a short time, not companies that aren't great, enduring companies that are great. That's what we love. Kevin, hello. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Brad. Always fun putting together these shows and taking our different experiences and perspectives and coming up with one kind of unified perspective on a topic. And I'm really looking forward to the show today. Doing great.
It's a friendly arm wrestle, isn't it? That we go
It
through
is.
each
Well,
week.
we have different. That's the thing. We have different views. If we both thought identically the same, it'd be boring for us too. So yeah, it's great.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Which is code for the listeners for, this should be interesting today. Each week, we like to start, as we advocate you do, with a word or phrase of the day. Kevin, what might you have in store for us today?
Yeah, I was thinking about this one, and there's always so many, different things, but the one today is tough decisions, tough calls. And they say it's what separates the men from the boys, and it also separate the little girls from the women, i.e. about growing up and becoming a better version of yourself. But it's tough decisions. I have a client that had to make a very tough decision last week, and it was excruciating for them and a number of people involved in this decision. And it's just interesting watching the build up to it, making the decision and watching it unfold afterwards. And and as we know in business, if you don't make enough of those tough decisions, you will get smothered under the burden of your organization. And so tough decisions is my word for today.
Awesome. Well, each week you like to stitch together the two, so I'm looking forward to seeing you stitch that with this. My word is actually a book. It's called Small Giants by Bo Burlingham.
Yeah.
This is the original and the best, I would say. It's such an excellent example of companies across America who have built companies that aren't solely focused on becoming big. They're focused on becoming great. And I've had the opportunity a few times to reflect on that in the last week. And yeah, that's kind of what's on mind.
Yeah. It's the tough decision to not be big, right? There's this tough decision to be a small giant, which is hard in our culture because it's always about bigger and better. And it's many ways, it's almost like the Zen minimalist view of things. How do we keep it simple and amazing? And that's going all right. That wasn't so hard, Brad. Tough decision to be a small giant.
Excellent. I do.
All right. So let's dig in today. Yeah.
What are we talking about today?
It's a topic we've talked about before. It's a real favorite for me. And it's basically, it's almost like, where in the world of racing cars, it's wherever you look, you go. So if you're going around a corner and you start sliding sideways, you look at where you want the car to go in the end. And, with practice, your hands automatically correct and generally take you there. Same thing if you're sliding in the snow and you're in a car drifting around in the snow. Hopefully you're doing it for fun, not because of an incident. And you just point the car where you want to go, mash the throttle, especially if it's all-wheel drive, it takes you there. And it's the same thing when it comes to leadership. It's about whatever you focus on, you get. And if you're running a marathon or a race and you're staring down at your shoes while you're running, it's probably not going to go very well because you're going to go down, face first into the ground. So this is about where do you focus as whether you're a frontline worker, a manager, an executive or CEO, where should you be looking and where should you be spending your time? So it's basically, we're eyes up, but how far up? Where should you be looking as a leader?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I had a chat with one of the teams that I work with recently, and the CEO, they're growing quite fast. They're growing really fast. And he can see the pain in the team. And he said to me, look, I just want to bounce it off you. I'm thinking maybe I need to spend some time doing the job. Like, I got to get out there. The team needs help. I need to get onto the front line and help. and it'll be the bold and brave thing to do. They'll all feel like I'm doing the right thing and so forth. No. That is not a good idea, because
Nope.
let's just put it into a ship analogy, right? So you're there instructing the person who's steering the ship, and you're saying to me, I need to go and climb the masts and haul the sails, and then I'm going
to go down to the engine room and go and work on the rudder, or the propeller if it's a engine powered boat. Yes. No freaking sense.
No.
And leaders do it all the time, because in the moment they're just trying to be helpful, but they don't realize now they're taking their eyes off the horizon. Now they're not thinking about the next moves. Basically, they're, as a CEO, if you're spending a lot of time on the day-to-day, you've got serious problems. Now, whether that problem is you and your leadership style, your management style, or your team or your business, CEO shouldn't have to spend very little time on the day-to-day, because it's a bad sign. It's a really bad sign.
Yes. Because you're doing other people's jobs. This is probably the key theme that I wrote in my book, Made to Thrive. As a leader, you need to do your job and do it well, and not do other people's jobs, because as soon as you start doing other people's jobs, it's taking away their autonomy, and it means that no one's doing your job.
Exactly. I mean, your role is vacant. And also in my book, I had a chapter as well called "Make Yourself Useless."
Yeah.
And your job as a leader is not to have anything to do. You're to support your people, make them so damn strong they can do it without you, so you can be eyes up, focused on what's next. Now, if you're running a team on a factory floor, what's next might be thinking about next week's production or enhancing production. If you're a CEO, it's about the future. So what we're going to dig into, and it's there's a lot of variables that go into you being able to do this. And I'll say one of this came up for me recently when I was talking with one of my CEOs about enhancing, and I talk to a lot of the CEOs about enhancing their abilities. And we talk about, for CEOs and even C-suite, about becoming the strategic CEO, strategic CFO. And I've worked with many over the years to make this transition. And even if you take the CFO role, there's the CFO who's basically like the senior accountant, getting the numbers right, working the systems. But a true strategic CFO is focused on the future. They're alongside the CEO, looking 1, 2, 3 years down the road, and building models and helping to make the decisions to take the business in that direction. But if they're an operational CFO, they don't have time, nor the thinking time or the bandwidth to do that kind of stuff. Same with the CEO. I call it the capital C CEO, or the strategic CEO.
Yeah.
That is the person who's truly doing that CEO job. And and then our first one we're talking here is the CEO. CEO should have a big portion of their time on 3 to 5 years in the future. They should be looking at enhancing the strategy. They should have a lot of think time, thinking about things, talking to people, exploring models. Maybe they're looking at acquisitions. Maybe they're spending some time on future products or understanding future needs of customers. Who knows what it is, but they're working on things that really have a payoff and an impact that are 3 to 5 years in the future.
But that's a really big payoff. Let's be clear. So I'm going to just bounce that back to you for clarity, because this is the kind of the headline that we're saying here. The CEOs focus primarily, for a huge part of their time, should be focusing on the 3 to 5 year period, focusing on the strategy, executing the strategy, becoming different in the market, maintaining the gross margin, making sure that if we need to make acquisitions, or what's happening in the market. Not so much if something happened in the factory yesterday. Oh, that'd be nice to know.
And maybe they do, and maybe they spend a few minutes on it. Maybe they have to lend a hand once in a while when something comes up, but it's going to be, round numbers, 50% of their time focusing on and driving those things in the future.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
All of those things in the future need work to be done to get there. Like, You need to
Yes.
do something this quarter and the following quarter and the following quarter. So understanding that, communicating it to the team and continuing to think on it, that is a huge part of the focus of a CEO.
Right. Which is basically not involved in the day-to-day almost at all. And a lot of times it's building relationships. You talk about in your book, the ambassador role. It's building relationships with key people. It can be, being involved in recruiting key talent. Maybe they know that they're going to expand into another country or another vertical of the industry, and they got to go and find some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to find some. So basically, 3 to 5 years out, a lot of time to think and enhance their understanding and develop. Because if not them, who? Everyone else is fighting fires, doing it. It's a key part of their job is to lay the track for the future.
A real quick example of this. Yesterday, I was speaking with a CEO, and he's the owner of the business, looking to put a CEO in to his role in a 3 to 5 year period. And so he's looking to hire a key executive who maybe can come into that role. And a lot of the work that we were doing was around analyzing the candidates and understanding who is the person that has the best chance of being able to take on that role. So this is not only about the strategy, it's about all of the things that are going to happen and getting clear on the vision at that point.
Yes, all of the things that generally have a 3 to 5 year payoff. Interesting, Brad, I had another conversation with one of my CEOs last week on the same thing.
Yeah.
And we went through, did a talent review of all of their direct reports, looking for their successor, because they want a successor in place probably in about 5 years. And at least being developed so that, in 10 years, then they can step out of that role. And goose egg. Yep. There wasn't a single person on their team. We're now going to go look a couple layers, the layer underneath it, to look for candidates. Same thing I did 2 weeks before that with another CEO. We went through their team. There's one that could. Don't know if that person would want to. But there's one that could. But if not, as the conversation is, if you have a whole team and there's no one that could be your role, you probably need to do some swapping and get somebody else working with you directly that could take your job. But again, but to replace a CEO is a 3 to 5 year project, even longer sometimes, to do it right, especially in an enduring company. So that's the CEO.
Yeah, go ahead. The CEO, 3 to 5 years. So what happens when we step a layer down? So now we're looking at the key executives, or the people who report to the CEO. So they should be spending their time with their head in the 90-day to 1 year period, executing the annual priorities, the annual budget, and the quarterly priorities and the quarterly budget.
Yeah, and no, it's not that some executives will spend a bit of time with the CEO on some of those longer projects, but it's not their core responsibility. Let's just say, for round numbers, the CEO spends 50% of their time on that 3 to 5 year horizon or more.
Yeah.
The executive is going to spend 50% of their time or more on that 90-day to 1 year time horizon. And then they might put some time shorter term, might put the longer term, but they really own delivery of the annual and quarterly plans.
And they're big things, the big rocks that you see on plans, the big, what are the top 3 to 5 things for the whole company? What are for the year? What are the top 3 to 5 things for the quarter and for the department? All of those things are big, and they've all got these executives' name against them. So executing a lot of these things, as well as executing the budget within those timeframes.
Yep.
That's where their time
has to be. It's a damn big critical job, basically making sure the company basically they're running the company successfully.
Yeah.
That's, which is, we measure. So that's pretty straightforward. We drop down to the senior managers, and some in the West, we call them directors, can be senior managers, all kinds of different titles, but this would be the people that would report to an executive, like, and if you've got a CFO as an executive, this would be like your controller or your other roles like that would report in. And they're basically making sure that their teams are really successfully this week getting what they got to get done.
Yeah.
and all the way up to 90 days. They kind of meet the executives at that 90-day piece where they're focused on delivering that plan. And again, not that they don't focus other places, but those senior managers are basically this week to this quarter, and they're not really thinking about the rest of the year. They're just trying to make sure all that critical work is getting done.
So the senior managers are focused on 1 week to 90 days. The senior managers are building or owning the 90-day plan that's executing the budget and the priorities for that department. Okay. But then the managers are focused on each of those 13 components, 13 weeks of that quarterly plan.
Yep. Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
And then we drop down to what you would call a manager or a supervisor. And this could be, an HR manager. It could be, someone leading an accounting team. This could be a manager of a certain product. It could be a fulfillment manager. All kinds of different roles. A manager in a factory floor, whatever it happens to be. And the managers and supervisors, who are generally overseeing frontline staff, they're thinking about today and the week. They're not thinking about 3 years. They're not even thinking about the year. They're just trying to make sure that everyone has a great productive day and all the critical stuff is getting done today, tomorrow, the next day, and next day.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting the team members who report to them to be productive in that week, to execute that week's plan, to execute the numbers that they need, be it sales or output or whatever it is, making sure that these people this week, everything at that level between the senior managers and the team members, for the managers and supervisors, everything is about this week. And then we step down to the team members, the frontline staff. For them, their primary focus is about today. And if you speak to them, it probably is. Their focus is, we've got to get this done by the end of the day. And that forms a part, as we begin to go back upwards, what they're doing on a daily level, that forms a part of the plan of the managers and supervisors, which forms a part of the senior managers, which forms a part of the executives, and ultimately, eventually forms a part of what the CEO's plans are.
Yeah. So if we really break it down, everyone has a different time horizon. What's their primary responsibility? And people might focus longer term or shorter term, depending. But for just a thinking model, it's basically where at least 50% of their energy is dedicated. And truly, when you get down to the team members and managers, it's probably 90% of energy is in that time horizon. So team members is today, managers is today to a week, senior managers is a week to the 90 days in a quarter, executives is the 90 days in a quarter to a year, and the CEO is 3 to 5 years plus, right? And really driving the longer term. And the key thing is, these are guidelines. The main thing, if you step back and zoom out, is, are you spending enough time on your core responsibility, i.e. for a CEO? Are you spending enough time thinking about and working on that 3 to 5 year time horizon? And if not, what do you got to do to calibrate it to get it there? Because in order to lead your company well into the future, you have to be thinking a lot about that future and laying the foundations for that future.
And maybe whatever level you're at, if you look and think, I can't think at that level, I keep getting sucked into the day-to-day or the week-to-week, maybe it says something about the people who are reporting to you and the accountability that they need to have.
Right. Or how you're interacting with it. Who knows what it is, but it's a great thinking model. All right. Well, thanks for listening. This has been the Growth Whisperers podcast. I'm Kevin Lawrence. This is my great partner, Brad Giles. For the YouTube version, go to YouTube and the Growth Whisperers. Search for us. You'll find us there if you want to watch the video. And to get a hold of Brad and for his awesome newsletter, evolutionpartners.com.au. And for myself and my, I think, awesome newsletter, we share the best insights we can. We're here to help, lawrenceandco.com. Hope you have an awesome week and good luck putting your right focus on the right time frame.